For the past couple of years, the hyperbaric chamber has been a hot topic for us here in Moose Jaw. When the plans for the new hospital unfolded a couple of years ago, surprisingly, our hyperbaric chamber was left out. The health ministry has gone as far as to even say that they're weighing the pros and cons of keeping it in Saskatchewan. This led to a massive outcry from concerned citizens, our local firefighters, and many others. According to the health ministry, the service is mainly used as a secondary outpatient treatment option, but after criticism from the political opposition and testimonies from folks all over the province, including our local firefighter Brent Evans, the life-saving capabilities of this machine have been brought to the forefront.
I should state that Brent Evans did have his life saved by this machine. He had carbon monoxide poisoning.
Yes.
And it saved his life. So to him specifically and the firefighters in general,
this is a very big
This
issue.
is a really big deal for them.
Also, Tuesday, Dustin Duncan did let us know that it was going to be staying in Saskatchewan.
But he said it after a couple, if we take it back a few days, he had made the report that it wasn't going to stay in Moose Jaw. Pretty much, he was saying that.
Yeah.
And then but it is going to stay in Saskatchewan. That's okay. That's okay.
Yeah.
It's not the end of the world, right? But the next day, after a little bit of uproar, he's like, well, my first choice is Moose Jaw.
Yeah, and he didn't really... Yeah, so he didn't say where it was going to be and in what kind of capacity. So he didn't say it's technically going to be in a hospital.
Yeah.
He said he's been on record many times saying that they've been weighing the pros and cons of putting it in a clinic as well. So we don't know how they're going to be using it yet. So.
There are a lot of excuses or concerns as to why Moose Jaw might not be the best option.
Yeah.
They've given a lot. Some of them I think are legitimately good concerns. Others I disagree with. Go ahead.
Sure. So the first one is space. There's going to be less space in the new hospital. They're saying that there's going to be 25,000 square feet less in the new one. So also the inpatient beds are being reduced from 99 to 72. So less space. I heard that Dr. David Ames has said that the room that they need for the hyperbaric chamber is very small. He compared it to the size of a living room. Not a lot of space is needed for this thing.
Yeah. So what? Make it work.
Just
make it fit.
Yeah.
Make it fit.
Yeah.
I don't think the people of Moose Jaw would have a problem if you had the hyperbaric chamber in a room that was also used for something else.
No, and they've said too with the new hospital the rooms are going to be more flexible. There's more flexibility for the rooms, so they
can accommodate it.
Yeah, absolutely. They can turn the room from one thing into another. And with the old hospital, they couldn't do that, so they can do it. So just do it. Just do it. Yeah. The next one, installation. The costs of moving that machine into the new hospital. How much did you say it was?
To move the machine from the old hospital to the new one, they estimate it's going to cost anywhere from $70,000 to $100,000. Now, before I go any further on that, because that sounds really high.
That's a little high.
This was just a quote that I read in the newspaper.
Yeah, okay.
That it wasn't from the people who I guess would estimate these prices.
Yeah. So
I'm just hoping that the person who quoted it in the newspaper heard it from a reliable source. That might not be reliable. But if it is, $70,000 to $100,000 is really high.
Yeah.
Really high. You would think that maybe they just haven't shopped around.
Yeah.
Because I've moved furniture. You just get a truck and a couple of friends and some beer.
Some pizza
and
maybe beer.
Yeah. And it's really cheap, actually. So I don't see why...
The firefighters would help. Absolutely.
They would help move it, right?
Yeah.
I might go as far as to say, look, I can guarantee you it will be not one penny more than $70,000. And you give me the $70,000, I can guarantee it won't get over. And I will hire a couple engineers and a guy with a flatbed truck and some straps, and we can drive it over, and we'll put it in for that money. And I guarantee it does not come anywhere close to $100,000.
No.
Also, you could really start a GoFundMe campaign if that's the big concern.
Kickstarter, Indiegogo, something.
There are outlets out there for this. Yep. Usage is another concern, the amount it gets used.
Yeah, not a lot of usage according to the Ministry of Health, and the usage that it is getting is mainly secondary treatment. That's what they're telling us. So
to me, that's sounds like a decent excuse.
yeah,
Like, that's a good one. If
Yeah.
it doesn't get used a lot, and they were kind of weighing the pros and cons, they would obviously want to keep a piece of machinery that they deem gets used more.
yeah, and it's mostly cancer.
Yeah.
Cancer treatment. So it would make sense to them to have it in a bigger center, a bigger trauma center. So
Yeah.
something like Saskatoon or Regina.
To me, the thing that I'm focusing on as a resident of Moose Jaw is just that one chance. So let's say out of
Brent Evans.
it got Brent exactly.
You know?
Let's say it got used roughly 100 times in 2014. That's an estimate. It was around there somewhere though. Roughly 100 times in 2009. Let's just say that 99% of those, 99 times out of that 100, it wasn't detrimental to Moose Jaw. It was something that the person using it could have gone to Regina and nobody would have really suffered.
Yeah.
It's that one time that makes that usage is accounted
Yeah,
for.
and that hypothetical future that, you know, I don't know, what if you go down one day? I want it in my backyard. I literally want it like right next to my garden.
Yeah.
I want it in my backyard.
As close as I can, yeah.
And so do the people in Saskatoon and Regina. So that's
there's
kind
a
of
fight.
where the issue is. So yeah, those are some of their
The finances too. It's the
yeah.
finances
Okay. Also,
of
yes, cost.
maintaining
Cost is
it.
another big one for them. There's cost of running the machine. They've brought up also the lifespan of the machine. They say that the hyperbaric chamber or hyperbaric chambers usually have a lifespan of 20 years. So if that is the case, they bought it in what 1997.
Around there.
Somewhere around there. So it's only got a couple of years left on this thing. So you'd be looking at capital costs, buying a new one. That's something that they've brought up. But the Moose Jaw Health Foundation, the local firefighters, plenty of groups and organizations have expressed interest in fundraising for that. So, you know, that's not really an issue.
But it is something we should be prepared for. Let's just say this one does crap out and we no longer have a hyperbaric chamber, and it comes down to somebody has to pay for the new one. If nobody offers to pay for the new one, I don't expect the government to pay for that. So we would then no longer have the hyperbaric chamber.
Yeah, and
we would no longer have one from here.
That would be a little bit of a dink move on our part to be like, so
yeah, fuck.
What's up?
We'll have the government pay for it. After all this fight, you guys,
Yeah.
we're going to try to move it, and then we destroyed it. And then you have to keep in mind that this was donated
Yeah.
by a family in Moose Jaw to the people of Moose Jaw, for the people of Moose Jaw, because they wanted it in Moose Jaw. They didn't want it in Regina. If they would have wanted it in Regina, they would have donated it to Regina.
Yes.
They wanted it here. And the firefighters, they spend a lot of money. Now, I don't want you to think, and I've read this places, that the government isn't paying for any of it, because I don't think that's the case.
That can't be true.
I would imagine there is some cost accrued to this. But the firefighters have donated upwards of $110,000. That's not just the Moose Jaw Fire Department.
No, that's the SPFFA. So that's the Saskatchewan Professional Firefighters Association. But obviously the Moose Jaw firefighters have donated into that.
Yes,
Yeah,
quite a bit. And they are the ones who seem to want this more than anyone else in Moose Jaw. And here's the thing. Even Cam Broughton wants it in Moose Jaw.
Cambro.
Even he wants it in Moose Jaw. And he's not even from Moose Jaw.
No.
But he doesn't live here.
No.
He doesn't. He just he represents the province.
Mm-hmm.
But he wants it in Moose Jaw because the people want it in Moose Jaw.
Yeah.
On to... I'm going to switch up the subject here for a sec.
Sure.
To something else. Another about cost. We're on the topic of cost. Is it's not really profitable.
Yeah.
Having this machine, it's basically just they're not making a profit. It's just to help us. And then one of their excuses or one of their options is to send it to a private clinic. And I would argue that what private clinic wants a machine that doesn't turn a profit?
Yeah, really.
And I wouldn't think there are too many of them.
No.
And the people in Moose Jaw are the people who are trained to use it. So are you going to, we're going to have to send them up to Saskatoon or wherever they move to train these people? Or are they going to have to move their families? Like, how's this going to work? That's another big question that needs to be covered. There was there was kind of a battle of words, if you will, between
Mickey and Dustin.
Mickey and Dustin. Mickey Jurek is a reporter for the Moose Jaw Times-Herald. She wrote a really nasty
She did.
editorial about Dustin Duncan, the health minister.
But she's the only one really covering it here in Moose Jaw.
Seems to be, yeah.
Good for her.
Yeah, it looks good.
Yeah.
Maybe sometimes I think she's a little out to lunch on
Yeah,
it. But
a couple times she needed to pump her brakes a little bit.
take it back, girl. Ooh. But I think more often than not, she's on all cylinders. She knows what she's talking about. She called out she basically called him a liar and said he doesn't know what he's talking about. And then in return, he wrote an editorial to the newspaper, and he had what was likely the most precious.
He wasn't too pumped.
He had the most precious quote I have ever read.
Let me read
the
this
newspaper.
here. Bear with me. This is ridiculous.
It's tough to listen to.
Our costs for real estate are the highest for a hospital in an inpatient acute setting versus any other type of setting. So it doesn't make sense to put something that is an outpatient service into the highest cost real estate.
What does that even mean?
No idea.
I think that's something that you could read 10 times and you might get some value out of.
Psychobabble.
Technobabble. It's bureaucratic jargon.
Yeah.
It's word salad. And the only reason...
Word salad.
there's a few reasons why he would do this. Mostly because the people that read that newspaper, when they read that, their eyes are just going to glaze over. They're not going to take in what that said. They're going to read that and...
Oh, that sounds smart.
There's that too. Yeah. This guy is a genius.
He knows what he's talking about.
He's a wizard.
Yeah.
Why would we not take this wizard who obviously knows what he's talking about? Look at this quote he said.
Yeah.
Why would we not assume that he knows exactly what needs done because he sounds so smart?
Mm-hmm.
That's I think it's a logical fallacy, and I think it's called argument by gibberish. And congratulations,
I like that.
Minister Duncan.
Yeah.
Also, where are we going to go with this? In response, not in response, but on the topic of the war of words between Mickey Jurek from the Times-Herald and Minister Duncan, Mickey Jurek had a really good quote. She asked a really good question, and I actually want to defer this question more to the MLAs.
Mm-hmm.
She asked this. She says, "But maybe the real point is how do politicians reverse a bad decision without losing face in the community?"
Great question.
I can answer it. Who cares? Who cares? Who cares if you lose face in the community? That's not what you're here for.
That's not the issue.
I think, and maybe Mickey's one of them, I think that they're treating the MLAs and Dustin Duncan like they're evil.
Yeah.
It's not the case. I imagine when they were passing around the idea of what we're going to keep at the new hospital, it just got
they weighed the pros and cons, and it wasn't
in
the plans. They're not evil.
They're not evil. And I'm on record as saying such. They're not evil, but I have a problem with them not being more vocal about keeping it here. Especially
the MLAs you're talking about.
The MLAs, Greg Lawrence and Warren Mitchelson. They should be the strongest advocates for it, but it seems to me like they're not for it.
Not lately. They were when the plans kind of rolled out. I heard some mumblings from them, but nothing lately.
And I think that's political, purely political.
Yeah,
because Cambro beat them to the punch, and he was outspoken a lot earlier than they were.
Yeah.
And now, almost for them to go back on it and say, look, we made a mistake and we should keep it in Moose Jaw, it would almost be like accepting defeat.
Yeah, and if it does stay in Moose Jaw, that's a win for the NDP.
Yeah, it is. You're right. It is. And they don't. And there's a part of them wants to keep it in Moose Jaw, but another part of them does not want to accept defeat.
No. You can't do it that way.
No, that's going to happen, and there's going to be other arguments where the NDP comes out as the losers. It's just something you have to live with, and you have to accept as a politician. You're going to make decisions sometimes that the people don't agree with, and then you might have to go back on them.
Yeah.
I would have more respect for Warren and Greg if they went back on it and said, look, I've made a mistake.
Yeah.
We did not think it was going to be such a big deal.
We didn't realize you cared that much.
Yeah, let's get it. Let's get this in here. Cam Broughton is right on this issue. You don't have to agree with his policy.
No.
But on this issue, he's right. Let's keep it in Moose Jaw. So that's who cares? Who cares whether they lose face in the community? as long as they fix the problems. And that's all we're asking of the MLAs, is to fix this problem.
Yep.
So basically, you were elected to represent your people, the wants and the needs of your people.
Yes.
Whether or not those people vote for you does not matter. They're still your people. They're still your constituents. You were elected by them, for them. You weren't elected to protect your neck.
Ooh.
Respect the W.
That's West Side.
Yeah. Come on, baby, come on. Baby, come on, baby, come on.
Yo, you best protect your neck.
First things first, man. You with the worst, I'll be sticking pins in your